Commander Zethkar stared at the holographic display showing the mining colony on Kepler 442b. Red warning lights blinked across the screen like angry stars. The colony that once produced enough quantum crystals to power half the galaxy's trade. Roots was now under enemy control. The Vorthons had taken it 3 weeks ago. Zethkar's forearms moved nervously as he read the reports again. The Vorthons were not just raiders. They were killers who enjoyed their work. Their black ships had appeared without warning, destroyed the colony's defenses in minutes, and killed anyone who tried to fight back. Now they sat on the most valuable mining operation in known space like poisonous spiders. "Sir, we have another problem," said his aide, Veltar. The young alien's skin had turned pale blue with worry. "The Corvin Mercenary Guild just refused our contract. They say the payment is not worth facing the Vorthons." Zethkar slammed one of his hands on the metal desk. "That makes 6 companies. 6. Every mercenary group in the galaxy is either dead or too scared to fight." The meeting room of the Galactic Trade Consortium ship felt smaller with each passing hour. Through the large windows, Zethkar could see other ships in their fleet. Cargo vessels, science ships, and even a few military escorts. None of them had enough firepower to take back the colony. The Vorthons had brought their best. 3 battle cruisers, dozens of fighters, and enough ground troops to hold the mining complex for years. Their leader, War Chief Draxmore, had sent a simple message after taking the colony. "Come and die if you want your crystals back." "What about the Zalani Brotherhood?" asked Veltar. "Dead. The Vorthons destroyed their entire fleet last month." Zethkar's tail twitched with frustration. "The Theros Union won't even answer our calls." The door to the meeting room slid open. Fleet Admiral Jorgen walked in, his old scales gray with age and worry. Behind him came the other members of the Emergency Council. They all looked defeated. Before the meeting even started, "Commander," Jorgen said as he sat down, "the board of directors is getting nervous. If we don't get those crystals back soon, trade across 3 sectors will stop. Ships will be stranded without quantum fuel." "I know that," Zethkar replied. "But every military force we can hire is either destroyed or refuses to fight the Vorthons." Counselor Nexra, a tall alien with 6 eyes, leaned forward. "What about using our own military?" "Our forces are designed for protection, not assault," Jorgen said. "The Vorthons have been planning this attack for months. They chose Kepler 442b because it's hard to reach and easy to defend." The room fell silent. Outside the windows, cargo ships waited empty. Without quantum crystals, faster-than-light travel would become impossible. The galaxy's economy would collapse. "Sir," Veltar said quietly, "there might be one option we haven't tried." All eyes turned to the young aide. Zethkar noticed that Veltar's skin had turned an even paler shade of blue. "Speak," Zethkar ordered. "There's a small mercenary company from the Outer Rim. They're cheap, very cheap, and they're available." "Why are they cheap?" asked Counselor Nexra. Veltar's voice became almost a whisper. "They're humans." The reaction was immediate. Jorgen's scales darkened with shock. Nexra's 6 eyes widened. Other council members made sounds of disgust. "Humans?" Jorgen said. "Those primitive creatures from Earth?" "They have no natural armor," Nexra added. "No enhanced strength, no telepathic abilities. They can barely survive in space without life support." "They're considered one of the weakest species in the galaxy," another counselor said. "Why would we hire them to fight the Vorthons?" Zethkar studied the datapad Veltar handed him. The company was called Iron Volf Security, 12 humans led by someone named Jake Morrison. Their equipment list looked like junk compared to modern military gear. Their payment request was almost insultingly low. "They're the only ones willing to take the job," Veltar said. "Everyone else says it's suicide." "Because it is suicide," Jorgen snapped. "Humans against Vorthons, it would be a massacre." Zethkar stared at the display showing the colony again. 3 weeks without quantum crystal production. Ships already starting to ration fuel, trade routes closing down one by one. "What do we know about these humans?" he asked. Veltar pulled up another file. They evolved on a death world called Earth, high gravity, dangerous weather, and they somehow became the dominant species. They've been in space for less than 200 years. A death world, Nextra said with a laugh. Commander, you can't be serious. They have a strange reputation, Veltar continued. Other species say humans are unpredictable. They do things that don't make sense. Like accepting suicide missions for almost no pay? Jurgen asked. Exactly like that, sir. Zethkar looked around the room at his council. All of them stared at him with expressions that clearly said he was losing his mind. Maybe he was. But what choice did they have? Contact this Jake Morrison, he said finally. Tell him we accept his offer. The room exploded in protests. Jurgen stood up so fast his chair fell over. Commander, this is madness. You're sending 12 primitives to fight the most dangerous raiders in the galaxy. Every real military force is dead or won't fight, Zethkar replied. At least these humans are willing to try? They'll be killed in the first 5 minutes, Nexra said. Probably, Zethkar agreed. But maybe they'll distract the Vorthans long enough for us to think of something else. Veltar was already working on his communication device. I'm sending the message now, sir. The reply came back faster than anyone expected. Just 2 words. In basic galactic standard. We'll come. They don't even want to know more about the enemy, Jurgen said in disbelief. They just said yes. Maybe they're braver than we thought, Zethkar said. Or more stupid, Nextra muttered. 2 days later, a small cargo ship appeared at the edge of their fleet. It looked old and patched with different metals. The name Lucky Strike was painted on its side in human letters. That's their ship? Jurgen asked. According to the registration, yes, Veltar replied. Zethkar watched the human ship dock with their station. In a few hours, he would meet these humans face to face. Part of him wondered if he was making the biggest mistake of his career. The other part of him wondered if he had any choice left. Image. Description for Leonardo AI, a large alien starship bridge with multiple viewing screens showing a distant mining colony under attack. A tall, 4-armed alien commander with scaled skin stands looking worried at holographic displays showing red warning lights. The scene is inside a futuristic space station with other strange alien council members visible in the background. Through large windows, small cargo ships float in space. The lighting is blue and metallic, creating a tense, desperate atmosphere. Science fiction style, detailed digital art. The docking bay of the Galactic Trade Consortium station had never seen anything like the Lucky Strike's crew. Commander Zethkar stood with his council, watching 12 humans walk down the cargo ramp of their ship. They moved with a casual confidence that seemed wrong for people about to face certain death. Jake Morrison led the group. He was a tall human with short brown hair and calm eyes. He wore simple combat gear that looked like it had been repaired many times. Behind him walked a woman with black hair tied back in a practical style. She carried herself like a soldier, but smiled when she saw the alien staring. Commander Zethkar? Morrison asked in accented galactic standard. I'm Jake Morrison, Iron Volve Security. Zethkar managed to keep his shock hidden as he looked at the human equipment. Their weapons were simple kinetic rifles that fired metal. Bullets, no energy weapons, no plasma cannons, just primitive guns that threw small pieces of metal very fast. Their armor looked like it was made from different materials welded together. This is my second in command, Lisa Rodriguez, Morrison sighed, gesturing to the dark-haired woman, and my team. One by one, Morrison introduced his people. Ben Carter was a thin human with quick eyes who carried what looked like a collection of electronic junk. Amy Foster was a small woman with gentle hands who somehow also carried 3 different weapons. Ryan O'Connor had red hair and a grin that made Zethkar nervous. The other 7 humans spread out behind their leaders. They all looked relaxed, like they were meeting friends instead of preparing for a suicide mission. We understand you have a Vorthan problem, Lisa Rodriguez said. Her voice was steady and professional. More than a problem, Admiral Yargan replied. His scales had darkened with worry. War Chief Draxmore has 3 battle cruisers and enough troops to hold the colony for years. Sounds fun, said Ryan O'Connor. The alien stared at him. Jurgen's mouth fell open. Fun? You think fighting Vorthens is fun? Better than sitting around doing nothing, O'Connor replied with that same unsettling grin. Ben Carter was already pulling out his electronic equipment. Can we get access to your sensor data on the colony? I want to see what we're working with. Veltar looked at Zethkar, who nodded. They led the humans to the main briefing room. The large holographic display showed the mining colony in detail. Red markers indicated Vorthen positions. Standard occupation pattern, Lisa Rodriguez said after studying the display for only a few minutes. They're using the main building as their headquarters and have guard posts at every entrance to the mining tunnels. Our best military analysts spent days on that same conclusion, Counselor Nextra said with surprise. It's textbook stuff, Rodriguez replied. Problem is, they're following the textbook too closely. She walked around the holographic display, pointing at different areas. See how they positioned their sentries? They're watching for attacks from the sky and from the main approach roads, but they're not really watching the maintenance tunnels under the complex. Those tunnels are too small for a proper assault force, Jurgen said. Depends on what you call proper, Morrison said. Amy Foster was examining the medical data about the colony's layout. How many civilians are still alive down there? Unknown, Zethkar replied. The Vorthens haven't responded to any communication requests. That means they're either all dead or being kept as slaves, Foster said matter-of-factly. Her calm tone while discussing such horrible possibilities made the aliens uncomfortable. Ben Carter had connected his equipment to the station's computers. His fingers moved over strange controls that looked nothing like standard interfaces. I'm going to try something, he said. What are you doing? Veltar asked. Seeing if I can get into the colony's computer systems, Carter replied. The Vorthens probably changed all the security codes, but they might not have changed the hardware. That's impossible, Nextra said. The Vorthens use military-grade encryption. No one has broken their codes. Carter didn't look up from his work. Good thing I'm not trying to break their codes. For the next hour, Carter worked with equipment that the aliens didn't recognize. He connected devices that shouldn't work together and used programming methods that made no sense. The aliens watched in growing amazement as he gained access to systems they thought were completely secure. I'm in, Carter announced suddenly. What? Jurgen moved closer to look at Carter's screen. How did you do that? I didn't go through their security, Carter explained. I went around it. See, they're using the colony's communication system to coordinate their forces. But they never bothered to check if that system was connected to other networks. On his screen, data flowed in patterns the aliens had never seen before. Carter had somehow accessed the colony's environmental controls, power grid, and even some of the mining equipment. This is very useful, Lisa Rodriguez said, looking at the data. Jake, look at this. Morrison studied Carter's findings while the aliens watched nervously. The humans were sharing information in ways that seemed almost telepathic. They would glance at each other and somehow know what the others were thinking. Okay, Morrison said finally. Here's what we're going to do. He turned to face the alien council. His expression was serious but not worried. The Vorthens think they're dealing with a standard military assault. They've prepared for ships attacking from space and troops attacking from the ground. Because that's how military operations work, Jurgen said. That's how your military operations work, Rodriguez corrected. Humans do things differently. Morrison gestured to Ryan O'Connor. Ryan is going to create some chaos with the mining explosives? Nothing that will damage the crystal deposits, but enough to make the Vorthens think they're under attack from multiple directions. O'Connor's grin got wider. I love my job. While they're distracted, Morrison continued, Ben will use their own communication system against them. We'll feed them false information and turn their coordination into confusion. And then? Zethkar asked. Then we walk in the front door, Amy Foster said casually. The aliens stared at her. The front door? Nexra repeated. Sometimes the best way to infiltrate an enemy position is to look like you belong there, Morrison explained. The Vorthans expect sneaky attacks and clever tricks. They won't expect 3 humans to just walk up and ask to be let in. That's insane, Jurgen said. That's the point, Rodriguez replied. Humans learned a long time ago that the most effective tactics are the ones your enemy never expects. Carter was still working at his station, but now he was smiling. I've got access to their patrol schedules and their supply delivery times and... Oh, this is interesting. What? Morrison asked. They've been getting supply drops every 3 days. The next one is tomorrow. Same time, same landing pad. Morrison and Rodriguez looked at each other for a moment. Without speaking, they both nodded. We're going to need some Vorthan uniforms, Morrison said. Where will you get those? Zethkar asked. From Vorthans, Amy Foster replied, checking her weapons. The casual way she said it made Zethkar's tail twitch with fear. These humans weren't just willing to fight the most dangerous raiders in the galaxy. They were already planning to win. When do we start? Morrison asked. You want to begin immediately? Jurgen said in shock. No point waiting around, O'Connor said. The longer we wait, the more time they have to get comfortable. As the humans prepared to leave for their ship, Zethkar realized something that made him more nervous than the Vorthan threat. These primitive creatures with their simple weapons and patched equipment weren't planning a desperate last stand. They were planning a victory.image description for Leonardo AI, a futuristic alien space station briefing room with tall alien creatures, with multiple arms and scaled skin looking shocked while watching 12 human soldiers in patched military gear. The humans appear relaxed and confident around a large holographic display showing a mining colony. One human with electronic equipment is hacking into alien computers while others study tactical data. The contrast shows worried aliens in sleek uniforms versus casual, practical human soldiers with improvised gear. Blue metallic lighting, science fiction setting, detailed digital art. The attack began at midnight, colony time. Commander Zethkar watched from the bridge of his ship as Ryan O'Connor's first explosion lit up the darkness on the mining colony's eastern sector. The blast was small but bright enough to wake every Vorthan on the planet. What was that? Admiral Jurgen asked, studying the sensor readings. Mining equipment storage? Ben Carter's voice came through the communication system. Ryan just turned a pile of drilling supplies into fireworks. On the tactical display, Zethkar could see Vorthan forces moving toward the explosion site. Their response was fast and organized, exactly what any military commander would expect. 2 minutes later, another explosion bloomed on the western side of the colony, then another on the north. Each blast seemed random, but Zethkar noticed that the Vorthans were being pulled in different directions every time. The humans are everywhere, Counselor Nexra said, her 6 eyes fixed on the display. How did 12 people cover so much ground so quickly? They didn't, Veltar replied, checking his instruments. I'm only reading 3 human life signs. Near the explosions, the rest are somewhere else entirely. Jake Morrison's voice cut through the communication static. Phase 1 complete, the Vorthans are chasing shadows. Beginning Phase 2, Lisa Rodriguez appeared on a security camera feed that Ben Carter had accessed. She was inside the colony's main communications center, but she wasn't alone. Amy Foster was with her, and both women were wearing Vorthan armor that was too big for their smaller human frames. How did they get Vorthan equipment so quickly? Jurgen demanded. They asked nervously. Amy Foster's voice came through the com, and there was something in her tone that made Zethkar's scales shiver. Rodriguez was working at a Vorthan control panel, her fingers moving over alien symbols she shouldn't have been able to read. Ben, I'm sending you access codes for their internal network. The Vorthans use a completely different system than we expected. No problem, Carter replied. Alien or not, computers all work the same way once you find the right buttons to push. On the display, Zethkar watched something impossible happen. The Vorthan patrol routes, which had been perfectly organized for 3 weeks, suddenly started changing. Guards who should have been watching the north entrance were redirected to the south. Supply convoys began driving in circles. The humans are using Vorthan equipment against them, Nextra whispered. They're turning their own technology into weapons. Amy Foster had moved to a different part of the facility. The camera showed her treating a wounded human, one of Morrison's soldiers, who had been hit by Vorthan return fire. But while she worked on his injuries, she was also monitoring 3 different communication channels and somehow keeping watch for enemy patrols. Your medic is also a soldier, Jurgen asked in amazement. All humans are soldiers when they need to be, Morrison's voice replied. Amy just happens to be good at keeping us alive while we work. The wounded human, a man named Pete Collins, was back on his feet within minutes. His left arm was in a quick bandage, but he was already checking his weapon and preparing to move. Shouldn't he be evacuated? Veltar asked. Why? Collins' voice came through the cum. It's just a scratch. I've had worse. Zethkar found this disturbing. In his species, a wound like that would require days of medical treatment. These humans seemed to ignore pain entirely. Phase 3 starting now, Morrison announced. The main camera feed showed the colony's front entrance. 3 figures in Vorthan armor were walking toward the gate, moving slowly like they were injured. The Vorthan guards at the entrance called out challenges in their own language. Jake Morrison replied in perfect Vorthan speech. His accent was flawless, his tone exactly right for a wounded soldier reporting back to base. The guards opened the gate and waved them through. Morrison speaks. Vorthan? Nexra asked in shock. He learned it during the 2-day trip here, Rodriguez said from inside the facility. Humans are good at picking up languages when we need to. 2 days? Jurgen's mouth fell open. It takes years to learn Vorthan properly. We had good motivation, Morrison replied as he walked deeper into the colony with 2 other humans disguised as prisoners. Ben Carter's equipment suddenly went quiet. His voice came through on a backup channel that used a completely different frequency. They jammed our main communications, switching to Plan B. Zethkar watched in fascination as the humans immediately began using hand signals. Their movements were so precise and coordinated that they might as well have been telepathic. Without any electronic communication, they continued their operation. As if nothing had changed, Ryan O'Connor triggered another explosion, this one much larger than the others. A storage building on the colony's south side disappeared in a ball of fire and smoke. But this wasn't random destruction. Zethkar realized that O'Connor had cut off the main supply route between the Vorthan headquarters and their defensive positions. The humans planned for communication failure, Veltar said in wonder. They have backup systems for their backup systems. Amy Foster was now in 3 different places at once, according to the security feeds. Zethkar realized that the humans had trained each other to do multiple jobs. When one person was busy, another could take over their duties without missing a step. Contact from the colony, an operator announced suddenly. War Chief Draxmore's ugly face appeared on the main screen. His red eyes blazed with anger, and his massive jaw was clenched tight. Zethkar, what manner of trickery is this? I don't know what you mean, Zethkar replied calmly. Your creatures are like ghosts, Draxmore snarled. They appear and disappear. They speak our language. They use our own equipment against us. What are they? They're humans, Zethkar said. Impossible. Humans are weak prey animals. These are something else. The communication cut off abruptly. On the tactical display, Zethkar could see that the Vorthan forces were pulling back toward their main headquarters. They were abandoning their outer positions and concentrating their troops in the central building. The Vorthans are scared, Rodriguez reported from inside the facility. I can hear them talking on their internal channels. They think we're some kind of new weapon, aren't you? Jurgen asked quietly. Morrison's laugh came through the cum system. Admiral, we're just 12 people with simple equipment and a plan. The Vorthans expected to fight an army, so they're confused when they can't find one. But you're winning, Nexra said. We're not done yet, Morrison replied. This was just the warm-up. Ben Carter's voice crackled through the backup channel. Jake, I've got access to their central computer. The Vorthons have something interesting in their main building. What kind of interesting? Morrison asked. The kind that explains why they really wanted this colony. It's not just about the quantum crystals. On the main display, Zethkar watched. 12 humans who had somehow turned a desperate suicide mission into a complex military operation. They were using Vorthon technology better than the Vorthons used it themselves. They were communicating without electronics. They were treating serious injuries as minor inconveniences. Most disturbing of all, they were clearly enjoying themselves. Sir, Veltar said quietly, I'm beginning to think we may have made a terrible mistake. You mean hiring them? Zethkar asked. No, sir, I mean underestimating them. As if to prove his point, Ryan O'Connor's voice came through the comm with obvious excitement. Jake, you need to see what I found in their weapons storage. These Vorthons have been very busy little raiders. Good busy or bad busy? Morrison asked. Depends on your point of view, O'Connor replied. But I think we're going to need a bigger plan. Zethkar stared at the tactical display and realized that the humans weren't just fighting the Vorthons. They were studying them, learning from them, and adapting faster than anyone thought possible. The question was no longer whether the humans could defeat the Vorthons. The question was what they would do after they won. Image description for Leonardo. AI, a dark alien mining colony at night with explosions lighting up different sectors in bright orange and yellow flashes. Human soldiers in oversized Vorthon armor move through industrial corridors while alien guards patrol in the distance. Security camera feeds show humans operating alien computer terminals and treating wounded comrades simultaneously. The scene captures nighttime tactical operations with a mix of stealth and controlled chaos, multiple small explosions creating dramatic lighting across a futuristic mining facility. Sci-fi military action scene, detailed digital art with dynamic lighting. War Chief Draxmore was not stupid. Commander Zethkar watched the tactical display as the Vorthon leader began to adapt to human tactics. The random explosions and misdirection had worked for 2 hours, but now the Vorthons were fighting back in ways that made Zethkar's blood run cold. They're using thermal scanners. Ben Carter's voice came through the backup communication channel. His usual confidence was gone. The Vorthons figured out that we're smaller and cooler than they are. They can track us now. On the main screen, Zethkar could see Vorthon soldiers moving with new purpose. They were no longer chasing explosions or falling for fake communications. Instead, they were hunting humans with the patience of experienced predators. Morrison, we've got a problem, Amy Foster's voice crackled through the comm. They hit Pete. And Danny with some kind of energy weapon. Pete's alive but hurt bad. Danny's not moving. The first human death of the mission. Zethkar watched Morrison's life sign on the scanner and noticed something strange. The human's heart rate didn't increase. His stress levels stayed exactly the same. Rodriguez, what's our status? Morrison asked calmly. Not good, came the reply. They've sealed all the exits and they're moving in coordinated teams. We're trapped. In the central complex. Admiral Yargan turned to Zethkar with a grim expression. It's over. The humans fought well, but the Vorthons have too many advantages. Maybe we should try to evacuate them, Counselor Nexra suggested. No way to get them out, Veltar replied. The Vorthons have anti-air weapons positioned around the entire colony. On the communication channel, Morrison's voice cut through. The static with unusual intensity. All units, this is Alpha Leader. We are now implementing Protocol Omega. I repeat, Protocol Omega is now active. What's Protocol Omega? Zethkar asked. The answer came from Ryan O'Connor, and his voice carried a tone that made every alien on the bridge nervous. It means we stop playing nice. The first sign that something had changed came from the colony's power grid. Every light in the facility went out at exactly the same time. Emergency systems kicked in, but they lasted only 30 seconds before. Those went dark too. Carter, what did you do? Jurgen demanded. I didn't touch the power system, Carter replied. Amy did. She's rewiring the main electrical grid to overload their equipment. Your medic knows electrical engineering? Nexra asked in shock. Amy knows a lot of things, Morrison said. We all do. The tactical display showed Vorthan forces stumbling around in complete darkness. Their advanced night vision equipment was designed for low light, not total blackness. More importantly, their communication systems were failing as power surges destroyed their electronic equipment. How is Foster doing that? Zethkar asked. She's turning the colony's own power system into a weapon, Carter explained. Every time the Vorthans try to restore power, she feeds it back into their equipment at 10 times normal voltage. Lisa Rodriguez's voice joined the conversation. I'm at the environmental controls, shutting down life support in sections 2 through 7. You're going to suffocate the prisoners, Jurgen protested. No, I'm going to make the Vorthans choose between chasing us and saving their own people, Rodriguez replied. They can't do both. The aliens watched in horror as the humans began using the colony itself as a weapon. The mining facility's own systems were being turned against its occupiers in ways the original designers never imagined. Ryan O'Connor's voice came through with obvious excitement. Jake, I'm in the main mining control room. You need to see this. Talk. To me, Ryan. The Vorthans have been using the mining explosives to threaten the crystal deposits. But they made a mistake. They stored all their charges in one location, and I can trigger them from here. How much damage are we talking about? Morrison asked. Enough to take out a quarter of the facility, including their headquarters. There was a long pause. Then Morrison's voice came back, calm and steady. Do it! Jake, no! Amy Foster's voice cut in. There are still civilians down here. I know, Morrison replied. Ryan opened a channel to the Vorthans. All frequencies. Draxmore's angry face appeared on every screen in the colony. His red eyes blazed with fury. What do you want, human? I want to make a deal, Morrison said. His voice was so calm it was frightening. You have exactly 10 minutes to release all prisoners and evacuate your forces from the colony. Or what? Draxmore snarled. Or Ryan pushes a button and your headquarters becomes a very large crater. You're bluffing. You wouldn't destroy the crystal deposits. I'm not bluffing about. The explosives, Morrison said. But you're right about the crystals. I wouldn't destroy them. That would be wasteful. On the tactical display, Zethkar could see something that made his tail twitch with fear. The humans were moving through the facility without any electronic coordination, but they moved like they shared one mind. When Morrison spoke to O'Connor, O'Connor was already moving before the words finished. When Foster needed backup, Rodriguez was there before Foster called for help. How are they coordinating so perfectly? Veltar whispered. Training, Morrison's voice replied, and Zethkar realized the human had heard every word. When you fight together long enough, you learn to think like your teammates. Ben Carter's voice joined the conversation. Jake, I've been monitoring Vorthan communications. They're scared, really scared. Good, Morrison replied. Draxmore, you now have 8 minutes. This is madness, the Vorthan leader shouted. You cannot defeat my entire force with 12 primitives. I'm not trying to defeat your force, Morrison said calmly. I'm trying to convince you that staying here is a very bad idea. Amy Foster's voice came through the cum with a tone that made Zethkar's scales stand up. Jake, I found something interesting in the medical bay. The Vorthans have been experimenting on the prisoners. The silence that followed was more terrifying than any explosion. When Morrison spoke again, his voice carried a coldness that made the bridge temperature seem to drop. Ryan, change of plans? If they don't evacuate in 7 minutes, blow everything. Except the prisoner areas. Everything? O'Connor asked. Everything. Draxmore's face twisted with rage. You cannot be serious. That would kill my entire force. Then you better start moving them, Morrison replied. Rodriguez's voice cut in. Jake, I'm reading massive troop movement. The Vorthans are heading for their ships. What about the prisoners? Foster asked. Loading them onto transports now, Carter reported. I'm tracking everything through their own surveillance system. Zethkar watched the most impossible military operation he had ever seen. 12 humans had somehow forced a superior enemy force to retreat not through superior firepower, but through pure psychological pressure and tactical improvisation. Morrison, Draxmoor's voice came through one final time. What are you? We're humans, Morrison replied simply. And this is just a small example of what we can do when we're motivated. This is impossible. Humans are weak prey animals. No, Morrison said, and his voice carried something that made every alien on the bridge take a step backward. Humans are the species that survived on a planet trying to kill us for millions of years. We're the species that turned every disadvantage into an advantage. We're the species that never learned when to quit, but there are only 12 of you. Today there are 12 of us. Tomorrow there might be 12,000. Next week there might be 12 million. The question you need to ask yourself, Draxmoor, is whether you want to find out. The Vorthan leader's face went pale. You're saying there are more of you coming? Morrison's smile was visible even through the poor quality video link. What do you think? An hour later, the last Vorthan ship lifted off from the colony. War Chief. Draxmoor had abandoned one of the most valuable prizes in the galaxy because 12 humans convinced him that staying would be suicide. Mission accomplished, Morrison announced. Colony secured. Prisoners rescued. Enemy forces retreated. Admiral Jorgen stared at the tactical display showing the empty colony. They did it. 12 primitives defeated 3 battle cruisers and 500 ground troops. No, Zethkar said quietly, watching the human life signs moving through the facility. 12 humans defeated them. And I'm beginning to think that's a very important difference. Image description for Leonardo AI. A dark mining facility with sparking electrical systems and emergency red lighting. Human soldiers move through industrial corridors in perfect coordination while alien Vorthan troops retreat in panic. Explosions and electrical overloads create dramatic lighting throughout the scene. A human figure stands at a control panel, with his hand over a detonation switch while alien enemies evacuate in the background. The atmosphere shows controlled chaos with humans using the environment itself as a weapon. Sci-fi action scene with dramatic lighting, industrial setting, and tactical operations. The colony was theirs. Commander Zethkar watched the 12 humans move through the mining facility like they owned it. The Vorthans were gone, the prisoners were safe, and the quantum crystal production could start again. By any measure, the mission was a complete success, so why did Zethkar feel like something terrible had just happened? Jake Morrison stood in the colony's main control room, surrounded by Vorthan equipment that his team had somehow learned to operate perfectly. Ben Carter was downloading data from every computer system in the facility. Lisa Rodriguez was making detailed recordings of Vorthan military tactics and equipment specifications. Impressive work, Admiral Jorgen said as he joined Morrison in person. The old admiral had flown down to the colony to see the victory site himself. I must admit, we underestimated your capabilities. Most people do, Morrison replied calmly. He was studying a Vorthan tactical manual that he shouldn't have been able to read. How long have you been able to speak Vorthan? Jorgen asked. Since yesterday, Morrison said without looking up. Ben downloaded their language database and we spent the flight here learning it. You learned an entire alien language in 2 days? Basic conversational level, yes. Military terminology takes a bit longer. Jorgen stared at the human. What else can your people do that we don't know about? Morrison finally looked up from the manual, and his smile made Jorgen's scales itch with worry. Admiral, you hired U.S. to remove the Vorthans from this colony. That's what we did. But you never asked what else we might accomplish while we were here. What do you mean? Ben Carter looked up from his workstation. Jake, I've finished downloading their database. We now have complete files on Vorthan military structure, ship designs, weapon specifications, and strategic planning methods. Excellent, Morrison said. What about their communication protocols? Got those too, and their encryption methods. And their supply chain management systems? Jorgen felt his blood go cold. You've been gathering intelligence on the Vorthans. Among other things, Lisa Rodriguez said as she walked over. She was carrying a datapad filled with information. We've also been gathering intelligence on you. On us? Jurgen's voice cracked. Morrison gestured around the control room. Admiral, your species has very advanced computer systems. Your security protocols are quite sophisticated. Your military procedures are well documented. You've been spying on the Galactic Trade Consortium? We've been learning, Morrison corrected. There's a difference. Amy Foster joined the group, and her medical equipment was supplemented with devices that Jurgen didn't recognize. I've been analyzing alien physiology data from the medical scanners, she said casually. Fascinating differences between species. Did you know that most alien races have very specific vulnerabilities that could be exploited in combat situations? You been studying how to kill us? Jurgen whispered. We've been studying how to understand you, Foster replied. Knowing how someone could die is useful medical information. It helps me know how to keep them alive. But her tone suggested that the information could be used either way. Commander. Zethkar's voice came through the communication system from orbit. Morrison, we need to discuss your payment. Excellent, Morrison said. My team has prepared an invoice? Jurgen asked. Ben Carter handed him a datapad. The list of demands made Jurgen's head spin. It wasn't just credits that the humans wanted. They wanted star charts for the entire sector. They wanted technical specifications for alien spacecraft designs. They wanted political intelligence on major trade routes and military alliances. This is not payment, Jurgen said in shock. This is everything we know about the galaxy. Your original contract said payment would be negotiated after successful completion of the mission, Rodriguez pointed out. We're negotiating. But this information could be used to threaten every major civilization in known space. Morrison's expression didn't change. That would only matter if humans were a threat to major civilizations. Are we, Admiral? Jurgen looked around the control room. 12 humans had defeated a force that had terrorized 3 sectors for years. They had learned alien languages in days, mastered alien technology in hours, and gathered intelligence on every species they had encountered. You're not mercenaries, he said quietly. You're scouts. We're explorers, Morrison corrected. Humans are naturally curious about the universe around us. We like to learn new things. Amy Foster was examining a Vorthan medical scanner with obvious interest. These devices could be very useful for treating human patients. The scanning resolution is much better than our current equipment. You want to steal our technology? Jurgen accused. We want to trade for your technology, Rodriguez said. There's a difference. Ryan O'Connor walked over carrying a Vorthan energy weapon. Jake, this thing is beautiful. The power cell design is at least 50 years ahead of anything we've seen before. Can you reverse engineer it? Morrison asked. Give me a week and access to a good workshop, O'Connor replied with his unsettling grin. Commander Zethkar's voice came through the come again, and this time he sounded worried. Morrison, surely we can reach a reasonable agreement. Perhaps. A mixture of credits and some basic technical information. Commander, Morrison said patiently, your contract specifically stated that payment terms would be decided after mission completion. We've completed the mission, now we're deciding payment terms. But what you're asking for could change the balance of power in the galaxy. Could it? Morrison asked. How? Zethkar was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was very small. Because humans would use that information to become a major power themselves. Possibly, Morrison agreed. Is that a problem? You're 12 people. Ben Carter looked up from his computer work. Commander, did you think Earth only has 12? Humans? The silence that followed was deafening. Jurgen felt his legs go weak as the full implications hit him. How many humans are there? He whispered. On Earth. About 8 billion, Morrison replied casually. Plus colonies on Mars, Europa, and a few other places in our home system? 8 billion? Jurgen's voice was barely audible. More or less. We haven't done a census recently. Lisa Rodriguez was making notes on her datapad. Jake, the political structure data is very interesting. Most alien civilizations seem to use centralized government systems, very different from human approaches. Good information to have, Morrison agreed. Amy Foster had finished her analysis of the medical equipment. I'm seeing some interesting possibilities for improving human genetic treatments. This alien medical technology could extend human lifespans significantly. 8 billion humans, Jurgen repeated, still trying to process the number. All of them like you? Oh no, Ryan O'Connor said with a laugh. We're just security specialists. Earth has engineers, scientists, diplomats, traders, explorers, and lots of other types of people. All of them as adaptable as you are? More. Or less, Morrison said. Humans are pretty good at learning new things. Commander Zethkar's voice came through the com one final time. His tone was defeated. What assurance do we have that humans won't use this information against us? Morrison considered the question seriously. Commander, humans are interested in trade, exploration, and learning. We're not particularly interested in conquest or destruction. As long as other species are willing to deal with us fairly, we're happy to be good neighbors. And if they're not willing to deal fairly? Morrison's smile was friendly, but his eyes were cold. Then they can ask the Vorthans how that worked out for them. 2 hours later, the human team was loading their ship with new equipment, detailed intelligence files, and technology samples that would change human civilization forever. The Galactic Trade Consortium had agreed to every payment demand because they realized they had no choice. As the Lucky Strike prepared to leave, Jurgen stood on the observation deck watching the human ship. Veltar joined him, looking just as worried. Admiral, Veltar said quietly, I think we may have made a terrible mistake. What mistake? Jurgen asked. We introduced humans to galactic civilization. Now, they know everything about us, and we know almost nothing about them. Jurgen nodded slowly. 12 humans defeated the Vorthans. What could 8 billion humans do? I don't want to find out, Veltar whispered. On the main communication channel, Jake Morrison's voice came through one last time. Commander Zethkar, thank you for the contract. Ionvolf Security has enjoyed working with the Galactic Trade Consortium. Will we see you again? Zethkar asked. Oh, yes, Morrison replied, and somehow that sounded more like a promise than a threat. Humans are very interested in expanding our business relationships throughout the galaxy. The Lucky Strike disappeared into faster-than-light travel, carrying 12 humans and enough intelligence to arm Earth with everything it needed to become a galactic superpower. In his office, Commander Zethkar stared at the empty space where the human ship had been. His aide's question echoed in his mind. You hired humans? Have you lost your mind? Now he knew the answer. Yes, he had lost his mind, and possibly doomed the galaxy in the process. The humans weren't just mercenaries. They were the advanced scouts for the most dangerous species anyone had ever encountered. And now they were going home to share everything they had learned.